Basketball GOAT debates have to be some of the most toxic discourse that the NBA community has to offer. MJ LeBron debates will likely never go away, and if you turn on ESPN on any given day during the off-season, you'll probably see the same argument happening between whoever they happen to have on air at the time. While LeBron and MJ are always brought up in this conversation, there are a host of other players who may also have GOAT cases that are excluded from this conversation for one reason or another. Guys like Kareem and Magic are oftentimes brought up in the conversation, but ultimately brushed aside in the face of the awe-inspiring longevity of LeBron or the flawless finals record of Michael Jordan. Wilt Chamberlain and Tim Duncan are also brought up in the conversation, but once again, their legacies don't stack up to LeBron or Jordan on the account of not having won enough or being as great for as long as Mike and Bron respectively. You also have the people that bring up a random niche player as their GOAT, like Brandon Miller and Paul George, and I've made it exceedingly clear that I'm a fan of aesthetic basketball, and I love Bag Lady and 8-Eye mixes and all of that, but let's be for real. Paul George? However, recently, Kevin Durant has made an attempt to enter his name into the GOAT conversation, asking why he shouldn't be in the conversation and what haven't I done. And I'm gonna be honest. Bro's been getting cooked. Stephen A kicked off the Fry session the purplest suit I've ever seen on First Take by giving a pretty balanced critique on why he believes KD isn't the GOAT, and Draymond Green came on his podcast later and also shut the idea down. On top of this, the NBA YouTube basketball community also came together to collectively bash KD's GOAT debate case, culminating in Dylan Does Basketball dropping a video claiming KD sold his basketball soul, automatically excluding him from the GOAT debate. Which, look man, I fell to my knees too on July 4th in 2016 when I got that ESPN notification that he went to the Warriors. I remember asking myself why he wouldn't join the Knicks, a question that I would ultimately end up asking myself more than once. On top of this whole decision happened 2 weeks after we got Derrick Rose on the team, and I really thought that Carmelo, D. Rose, and Courtney Lee would get it done, but oh well. Regardless of this, KD's been getting cooked up by NBA discourse, and he's responded in a way that he's been critiqued for so many times by popular media. And I'm personally not opposed to what he's been saying, but I'm not going to read these comments because my mom watches this channel, so while the majority of media has been cooking KD, and rightfully so because resume for resume, I don't know if he can compete with Michael Jordan, I have to be honest. In some ways, he kinda is my personal GOAT.
Oh, tomato.
I've had this take for a while, but I just really enjoy watching KD as a player, and I've always been enamored with the way that he was so effortlessly able to score the basketball utilizing just his jumper and barely any dribbles. He's always been one of my favorite players in the league, and to be honest, I don't think that many people can say differently, especially if you play 2K, because you probably made your My Player in this guy's image. Those early days in OKC where he still had that elite burst along with an uncomfortably tight handle for a 7-footer and a lethal jump shot was some of the most mind-boggling basketball I've ever seen. Well, it was some of the most mind-boggling basketball I had seen, considering now we have literal Space Jam monsters in the league. In that post-Warriors era, Brooklyn KD also proved that he was still the same killer even after that Achilles injury and had an all-time great playoff series against the Bucks where he literally went into the Avatar state and almost willed his shorthanded Nets past the Bucks. During his time in Phoenix, KD has continued to prove that he's an elite scorer and an underrated defender, but due to a shorthanded roster and another series of unfortunate injuries, he doesn't seem to be getting the same amount of love, and Phoenix seems to have a limited ceiling in terms of playoff success. Still, both of these stints are not what solidified KD as my personal GOAT. And between you and me, the exact moment that KD became my GOAT happened while he was on the Warriors. Now hold on. Before I start getting cooked again, I have to reiterate that I'm a fan of bag talk basketball. And whenever I see something incredible, regardless of the team or how maligned the player is, I have to give credit. That's why I can say Trae Young is one of the best point guards in the league even after what he did to my team in 21. KD was playing some incredible basketball on the Warriors and had a lot of all-time moments that were swept under the rug because of the team he was on. And I think that's throwing the baby out with the bathwater because you guys are missing out on some really amazing basketball. He had that monster 51-point game against the Raptors in 2018 where he hit this insane shot. And he also had this 41-point performance against the Knicks in the Garden, where he had 25 points in the fourth in a game that I really thought we had, but unfortunately Noah Vonleh and company were no match for KD. And don't forget his incredible finals performances against LeBron, which are again oftentimes forgotten, but he was unreal in each of these appearances, and before he went down with his Achilles injury in Toronto, it was looking like he was getting ready to cook again. Still, none of these performances are what made KD my GOAT. For this game, we have to go into the 2019 playoff series against the Clippers. To set the stage a bit, 2019 was a great time to be a Warriors fan and a terrible time to be a fan of just about anybody else. The Warriors were going into their third year of having KD, and the NBA community as a whole were coming off 3 straight years of LeBron versus Warriors finals, and we thought that we'd never see the end of these matchups. Not to say that these finals were bad, but they were kind of, well, bad. After 2015 and 2016, which were both all-time finals, the following 2, where the Warriors had KD, were pretty boring for the majority of the NBA community. There were exciting moments, like LeBron and Kyrie combining for 71 points to beat the Warriors in Game 4 to win the only game that they could in the 2017 finals. And Game 3 was also pretty exciting, with the Warriors pulling out a 5-point win over a Cavs team that had LeBron and Kyrie have 39 and 38-point games respectively. However, interestingly, in all of these different performances that I named, KD also had 31 plus points, and in both of the finals that he was healthy with the Warriors, he completely dominated. This is an often overlooked fact about KD's time with the Warriors. He was dominant every time, and he was perennially being put in those best player in the world talks that happen every so often after the finals at ESPN. 2019 was no different, and it was a somewhat tumultuous season in the Warriors organization with the infamous Draymond KD meltdown, which ironically came in a game against the Clippers. The Warriors met the Clippers 4 times in the regular season and won 3 out of these 4 games, and in these games, KD averaged 27 points on 53% shooting from the field and 40% from 3 on 5 attempts. True KD efficiency. Despite the Warriors winning 3 out of their 4 matchups with the Clippers in the regular season, their playoff matchup was an unusually bumpy one, and the series was pretty back and forth between the solid play of Patrick Beverley and offensive output of Danilo Gallinari and a super strong bench that included Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. There was an expectation that the Warriors would walk through the 8-seeded superstarless Clippers, however they were determined to make the series a grind. And Game 1 saw Kevin Durant be ejected alongside Pat Beverley in a moment that would establish the tone for the series. Despite KD averaging almost 34 points against Patrick Beverley in the playoffs for his career, in 2019 there was a sense that Beverley was doing a good job of locking KD up and stopping him. Especially in Game 2, which saw the Warriors have a monumental collapse as the Clippers mounted a 31-point comeback in a game where KD had 9 turnovers. Beverley has since admitted that he was being an irritant and hyper-aggressive with Durant in an effort to keep him from shooting over him. However, the media seemed to agree that Durant was being affected by Beverley's antics. But in the immediate aftermath of a game where he played poorly and they ended up losing, KD would drop what would arguably become his coldest line in basketball history.
I'm not gonna get in the way of the game because, I want to have a little back and forth with Patrick Beverley. I'm Kevin Durant.
This was the moment that KD became my GOAT. Now I know we've seen other players time and time again brush off asides like LeBron and Dillon Brooks, but to watch KD do this, knowing what comes later in the series, it was truly incredible. And even if he's not your GOAT, it should put him in the conversation. Following this interview, KD started cooking, and the Clippers could do nothing to stop him. In Game 3, KD did exactly as he said he would and absolutely destroyed Pat Bev, scoring 38 points on 60% shooting. Game 4 was more of the same as he scored 33 points on 57% shooting in another easy win for the Warriors. And in Game 5, KD put up at that point his career high of 45 points. But unfortunately, the Warriors lost. And in the most NBA media twist of all time, the reports went from KD not shooting enough to accusing him of shooting too much. To take an aside for a bit, can you imagine what it must be like to overperform at your job and still be accused of a loss? This is a common cross that those in the GOAT conversation have consistently had to bear, and KD had it while he was at the Warriors and in Brooklyn. All of the guys in the GOAT conversation, especially LeBron James, have consistently had to bear the criticism whenever their teams lost, regardless of how well they performed. The main example of this is LeBron's 51 points in Game 1 of the 2018 Finals. Now, the caveat of course is that LeBron was going up against the God Squad that was the 17-18 Warriors with minimal help, but the point still stands that no matter how well you play and how much you do, the standard to just be in the conversation was still being applied to KD. As a matter of fact, after Game 5, people went so far as to compile a list of the Warriors' record in games where KD scored 40 or more, and as it turned out, there were only 500, with 5 wins and 5 losses, and the loss to the Clippers dropped this number to below 500. With all of the unexpected criticism and narrative circling around throughout the duration of this series, Game 6 had more significance than people tend to give it in the totality of KD's time with the Warriors. And when it mattered most, he showed up in the biggest way. Game 6 KD is like one of those mythical hoopers that you have to see to believe. And I can say with confidence that aside from LeBron against Toronto, I've never seen one man quite break a team with each make like KD did to the Clippers. He came into this game and made everything. He proved he could shoot over Pat Beverly, and Garrett Temple, and Danilo Gallinari, and everyone on the Clippers who managed to get the idea that he was somehow responsible for the losses, or that he was just guest starring in the Curry show. The best part about this whole game is that with each make, you can see as Lou Will gets more and more deflated, and both he and Patrick Beverly confirmed after the game what we were all able to see on the court, that there was nothing more they could have done.
Shelley Smith from ESPN over here. What more could you have done to slow Kevin down, especially in the first half?
I answer this. What you think? You played basketball before? What you think? Honestly, that's an honest question. What you think? You watch a lot of basketball. You with ESPN. I mean, he's Kevin Durant.
I promise we tried.
We didn't roll over. And we didn't just say, hey, man, you know what? Just come on, give us.
KD, of course, finished the game with 50 points on 14 for 26 shooting to send the Clippers home. And to have Lou Will and Pat Bev admit that they were outmatched by one man was truly a poetic end to the series, and real GOAT narrative material. Ultimately, while the GOAT conversation can be a somewhat objective thing, it usually devolves into slandering players for the sake of lifting up your personal choice. And while I do love some good slander, it's an unfortunate thing, because you miss out on appreciating legendary talents while they're still in the league. For me, the idea of having a GOAT comes down to who you prefer watching that brings back that childlike joy when you watch them play. And if we could all just watch and enjoy the game this way, maybe, just maybe, the culture surrounding NBA discourse would be way less toxic.
Man, what the fuck is you talking about?
What the fuck was that?
I'm sorry, man.
Even if you don't believe in that fact, I don't know that KD should get absolutely eviscerated the way he has for simply asserting that he should be in a conversation that he's consistently been judged against. Nonetheless, whether you choose to put him in your GOAT conversation or ruthlessly criticize him on the basis of perceived weakness and underachievement, we can all say that at the end of the day, we know who that man is.
I'm Kevin Durant.